Welcome back YouTube. So in today's video we're going to be talking about 10 things that will guarantee you to feel shit about yourself, which is a bit of a controversial one. So it's essentially avoiding these things if you want to make any form of progress in life, whether it be from a physical standpoint or from a mindset standpoint, and how important it is not to kind of just chase subjective data, because it obviously doesn't define our progress, and it can be very easy nowadays with modern technology and social media to kind of compare yourself to others, or at least kind of just make judgment on whether you're making progress or not on the basis of, scales or, metrics from like a Whoop band or something like that. So yeah, we're going to delve straight in. And obviously the first one and number one is scale weight. Okay, so the scale weight can obviously be objective and subjective in recognition to one another, I guess, but scale weight isn't the be all and end all. And I think a lot of people, including myself, I would be very hypocritical to say that the scale weight doesn't affect me mentally. More so, definitely within the dieting phase, not so much within like an off-season environment, but there's so many factors as to why scale weight can be influenced, food volume being one of them, water, sodium, sleep and hormones. And I'm not going to kind of delve into this. It's very apparent, and a lot of you will already know, all these kind of variables will dictate what your scale weight says, but it's not, and it shouldn't be the only determining factor in regards to whether you're making progress or not. And there's a few guys watching this which I know will massively relate. People that are in dieting phases, you'll see the scale jump up, you'll see the scale not move, you'll see the scale not do what you want it to do, basically, in short. And that will be like the end of the world. That will ruin your start of the day. And because, obviously most of us will be weighing ourselves first thing in the morning, we can't let that first initial interaction with the day be like a negative. So just get on the scales, weigh yourself, what will be. As long as you're doing everything right, training, cardio, steps, nutrition, everything's bang on, it will standardize. And this is why you should be taking at least daily scale weights to get an average across the week, not just a one-off, per week scale weight reading. It's obviously not the only variable as well. So obviously when you are in a fat loss phase or a muscle building phase, the scales won't tell you necessarily if you've lost body fat or if you've built muscle. Okay, like I said, going back to the hormones, the sleep, the sodium, all these variables will influence the scales in a way that, prime example is when I was going through prep and I'd wake up and I'd feel much sharper, like condition was so much more visible, but the scales wouldn't reflect that. But after doing this for so many years now, I know I can't put all of my kind of hope and promise into the scales. If I look better and I feel better, and the visuals being a big part of this, then that's the win. Okay, we don't kind of view a singular metric set of digital scales to determine our mood for the rest of the day. So learn to see it as data, not judgment. The second one is obviously like recovery or readiness scores, which, with Whoop bands, and I'm a big advocate for my Whoop band, and it's the best and it isn't the best, in a way that you don't want to view it as gospel. Just because you've woken up and it says that your recovery is like 10 and it's in the red, and you think, well, actually I feel all right, because I've been guilty of this myself in the past, where I'll wake up and I'll feel fine. I'll be like, yeah, I feel good today. And then like an hour later, I'll check my Whoop score and it'll be like underslept or not recovered properly. And therefore I'm starting to think in my own head, hold on, you know what, maybe I do feel a bit more tired today. Just go off how you feel. The data is only relevant to how you're feeling. Okay, if you feel good, you feel good. Don't let like a red circle or a green circle determine whether that's you feeling good or not. It's a Whoop band. It's not going to be the most 100% accurate of devices in the world. Of course, it can be consistent, and you can obviously see trends, and you can essentially do things to help improve on that readiness score and stuff like that, and recovery score. But essentially, at the end of the day, if you feel good, you feel good, and you can't let anyone else tell you that. Not a silly little app that's on or a silly little watch that's on your wrist, because it's not going to be the most accurate of data. But again, there's other variables that will influence this kind of data as well. So like stress, caffeine and poor sleep. A prime example is this week that my recovery's been amazing, and for maybe a few weeks prior to that, it hasn't been the best. And there's a few things that I changed in regards to, I wasn't having my last meal too close towards bedtime, because that will massively interfere with like my sleep. I also was not wearing my blue light blockers for a while, and I've started wearing them again towards bedtime, because it basically, obviously, blue light blockers blocks the blue light that comes in through artificial light and helps with wearing them helps with the production of melatonin, so it helps you get into a deeper and better quality night of sleep. And obviously, caffeine as well. If you are having caffeine a little bit later in the evening, things like this can influence your sleep as well. So just because it's red or not the score that you want it to be, doesn't mean that, you're feeling, or you should be feeling, underslept or not energized enough for the day. The third one, and probably the biggest one in my opinion, is comparing to other people. Okay, and I've said this before, that obviously this year I competed on stage, and the whole point of competing is you're getting judged against other people. So it's quite hard to kind of come away from that, because you'll see some guys on stage, like on this picture here, you're like, whoa, they're huge, they're so much bigger than me. However, this was an open class. This was my first time on stage, or my first season on stage. These guys have been competing for years. Some of them are like 10, 15, 20 years older than me on stage as well. So obviously they've got a lot more maturity of muscle, they've got a lot more time, a lot more skin in the game. And everyone's genetics, training age and lifestyles are all different as well. So if you start comparing to other people, you're just going to massively take away from your own progress. And it's very easy to do that. And I think it's very cliche, and you will have heard me say this time and time again, but just compare to yourself. Like, looking at this picture now, is that a better physique than I produced the previous year? 100%. Is it a better physique than I produced 2 years ago? 100%. So that is the only person you really should be comparing to, because that is your only competition. That's the only person that you can beat. You can't beat other people. You can't change your genetics. You can't change your lifestyle or how much muscle you can build in a certain time frame. So yeah, don't compare to other people, because it will just kind of take away from your own progress, and you'll start to fall out of love with the process as well then. Okay, so only compare to yourself. And I know it's easier said than done, especially when you are in like a competing environment, because you're like, oh, that guy's got a bigger chest than me, that guy's got a better back, he can pose better than me, whatever it might be. And there's certain things you can improve on if you want to, like the posing maybe. But in terms of like musculature, that's going to be hard to go by. But obviously, comparing to yourself is the best way to go about it. So only compare to your past self, in a nutshell. Social media highlights as well, and I said about this at the start, social media, you're always going to see people in their best version of themselves. You're going to always see the best lighting, the best angles, the best pre-photo shoot pump up. It's very easy to compare to them, but it's also, for a lot of people, and my guys who are doing photo shoots, the whole point of the diet, the peak week, the pump up, the glaze that we might put on, the lighting, where Sam takes the pictures in these specific pictures, that is them at their 100% best. And of course, if you're sat there on the sofa at night and you've maybe not had the best training session that day, or you've missed your cardio, or you've eaten off plan the night before and your scale weight spiked up, and then you see this social media highlight of someone's best, absolute best, like their peak condition of how they're meant to be, of course you're going to feel shit. Okay, so just focus on your own consistency, not peak moments of other people's kind of journey. Because again, you may be in a similar position that when we see you at your best, or when you see yourself at your best, that'll be obviously like oh shit, I can do that as well. Daily fluctuations in appearance as well. So water retention, carbs, stress, sleep, all change how you look from day to day. So you can see this timeline of myself here. Okay, and this is why taking pictures are very important, because like I say, the scales won't tell you everything. And if I compare like my current scale weight to how I was at this current scale weight for the past few years, it's very, very different time and time again. So it's very important to take pictures, but you shouldn't, if you aren't maybe assessing and zooming out and seeing the bigger picture, and you aren't, looking at monthly trends, and you just kind of focus on the daily trends or the daily scale weight, you're not going to see the full picture. So obviously you can see here from week 1 to week 8 to week 27, all very different looks. And this is why it's just important to kind of keep going through the process and just trust in the process as well, that what you're doing is working. It's very easy to kind of be like, I'll look at week 1 and then I'll look at week 2. Oh, there's no changes. Like, of course, there's not going to be many changes within a week. We're not superhuman. It's going to take a little bit of time, especially as a natural athlete or gym goer, to see proper change. But when you do trust in the process and you commit to each phase at a time as well, this is where you're going to see the most amount of progress. This one's probably quite relevant for me at the minute. Gym performance dips, because I had some pretty dodgy elbows the other week, and my training wasn't the best because I couldn't train properly. But one bad session or even one bad week doesn't mean that you're regressing. Okay, there's so many factors that come into play to maybe a poor session, but just maybe a session that's not up to your standards. And this is something that I say to all of my guys, that the reality of it is, that we expect 100% of our sessions to be perfect, amazing, like consistent progress. And the reality is that it's not. You know, you have 50% sessions where you just get it done and they're good. 25% of sessions are going to be shit. And the other 25%, they might be the really, really good ones that you think, yeah, that was a fucking amazing session. But you see people on Instagram all the time, like, oh, training's going so well. And you know, I'll say it when it is going well, but people are like, training's going so well, never felt this strong, never felt this good. And then again, going back to social media, you'll see this and be like, oh, I've had quite a bad week with training, to be fair. Why aren't I progressing every single week? And that's the reality of it is, again, you're always seeing people's best versions, or you're always seeing, the thing with like social media is that people can put on a pretty good facade and they can kind of say that everything's going really well, but deep down they're just putting on an act almost. So don't kind of compare to social media and things like that, because, you know, if your training is dropping off slightly, assess it. You know, is fatigue quite high? Was your sleep poor the night before? Are you in quite a stressful environment at the minute? You know, is work busy? Is family things going on? There's so many things that will determine your training. And, you know, maybe if you've missed a meal, maybe if you've not fueled yourself adequately for the session, there's going to be so many factors as to why training might drop off. But it's always good to assess and reassess and see, okay, so analyze, why has this week gone bad with training, or why has this session gone bad with training? So for me, I know for a fact it was my elbow pain, which I've now had a massage, I've got cupping today. So I'm doing things to rectify this. I'm taking supplements which will help me, turmeric and black pepper, anti-inflammatory supplements, to help with like the inflammation. So there's all these things that you need to do to assess, as opposed to just thinking, oh, I'll just push on again next week. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So assess your training. If you need to take a bit of a deload and time away from the gym, if you've been pushing quite hard for some time, it might be time to step back and allow your body to actually recover properly as well. Food choices or bad meals. So again, and this is obviously a little bit harder maybe when you're in the dieting phase, and if you've got something social on like a wedding, or, you know, a big birthday that you want to celebrate, or you go on holiday right in the middle of a dieting phase, and, you know, you have a little bit more bad food, so to speak, than not. One meal isn't going to ruin progress, you know, just like one meal, you know, eating clean won't fix everything as well. But the overall pattern over time is what's important. So for example, like my prep, it was a 6-month prep, and I think I went on one stag do. So obviously you can imagine that I was drinking and I wasn't eating the best food. Well, I wasn't eating too bad, but there's still like a pizza or some chicken wings in the mix. And then I had a wedding where, again, I drank some alcohol and had obviously the food that was provided at the wedding. But over the 6 months, for that to be maybe Christmas as well, to be fair, only like 3 occasions where I had social or off-plan food, but the rest of the 5 months and 3.5 weeks were bang on. That's the kind of the outlook that you want to look. If it's, you know, bad and not congruent to your meal plan or congruent to your goals every single week, then obviously you can maybe take a look at yourself and be like, okay, you know, it's not the one bad meal, it's the fact that I'm doing this every single week. Whereas obviously, you know, when you commit properly, like my prep, for example, and I only had like 3 off-plan occasions, you know, all the other time on that plan, sticking to the food, sticking to the steps, sticking to the cardio, you know, it didn't really do any damage. So that is why it's important to remember the bigger picture as well. Body fat percentages as well. So obviously things like, you know, I always remember like Pure Gym, they have them like machines where you hold onto the handles and it, you know, measures like your body fat and your bone density and body composition, and what's the other one? Something else as well. Maybe like visceral fat or something, but they're not accurate, okay? They're probably very, very inaccurate, if anything. You know, so you get some readings from some of them and you're like, 20% body fat? I don't think I am. Or, you know, completely the opposite way around, like 6% body fat. It's just so way off. So don't kind of focus too much on what your digital set of scales is saying when it comes to like your body fat percentage, or even like DEXA scans. I went for a recent DEXA scan, which hopefully you'll see on a video in the future. But even that, you know, depending on how much you've drank or eaten that morning, this is why you do and should do DEXA scans in a fasted state. That can fluctuate based on your kind of food volume in your stomach, or your hydration levels as well. So again, this is why it's important to use things like photos to measure your progress. How clothes feel as well. Like this t-shirt used to be so baggy on me during prep, but now it's starting to feel a bit tighter again, which is a nice sign that I might be growing. Last one is validation from other people. Okay, if your confidence or your success or your, you know, progress from week to week is reliant on what people say on Instagram or what people say on, you know, in the gym, then, you know, it's going to feel shit when no one else comments. So a prime example is obviously when, and I'm sure a lot of kind of bodybuilder or photo shoot guys can relate to this, that, you know, during prep, when you're getting leaner and you're posting pictures maybe week after week and people are like, oh mate, you look class, you look great, you look incredible. Like that at the time during prep, it's like, oh wow, yeah, I do. I feel good, I look good. And other people can see that now as well. However, when that stops and you maybe come into an off season and people aren't commenting anymore and the likes are going down a little bit on Instagram, that's when it's going to start to, a lot of people might find that mentally tough. And this is why they might just keep lean all year round to keep the views up, to keep the likes up. And this is where progress won't be made. Because if you're staying lean all year round, then you're just going to exactly stay where you are, maintenance all year round. So there's no real form of progress. So build self-trust from, your actions, not others' approval and recognition as well. Like, just because other people aren't saying you look as good as much anymore doesn't mean that, you're not looking good, or you're not performing good, or you're not being the best version of yourself. So yeah, if you're looking for validation from other people all the time, it's going to collapse when no one comments. And then the last one to leave you with this is stop trying to be perfect 100% of the time. Okay, the goal isn't perfection as always, it's consistency, done well over time. Okay, not every single day. And I've spoken to my clients a few times, a few different clients about this, this week in check-ins, that 100% of the time to expect perfection is a lot. It's a big ask. Okay, it's like, example being, a football team winning 100% of the time. Like, how many teams go a full season with a 100% win record? Okay, there's been maybe one, Arsenal, back in the, don't know when it was actually, I'm not going to ruin my football knowledge on here. But yeah, imagine like a football team winning 100% of the games. Just not going to happen. There's going to be a few losses, there's going to be a few draws, and it can be very similar to yourself with your fitness journey, your training, and obviously your nutrition as well. Okay, but just aim for perfection. Aim to try and be the best every week, but just aim for consistency as well. If every week looks different, from like, this was a really good week, this was a really bad week, this was a really good week, that's going to be like stop, start, stop, start. If you can just aim for like pretty bang on all of the time with maybe a few drops and maybe a few better weeks, that's going to get you the best result possible. Okay. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below. And as always, if you aren't subscribed, which quite a few of you aren't, please hit that subscribe button, as I am trying my very best to reach 300 subscribers by 2026. So I think I'm about 12 subscribers off, so it would massively help. See you in the next one.